The command center was full of tension. Officers from 6 different species crowded around the holographic display. Bora stood near the front with Day beside her. She had not slept in 2 days, but she could not rest yet. "Explain it again," Admiral Takeshi of the human fleet said. He was old with gray hair and sharp eyes. Bora took a breath and pointed at the display. "The Dominion is building a weapon platform in the Kalos system. These schematics show it is almost complete. When finished, it will be able to destroy entire planets from 3 systems away." Silence filled the room. "How do you know this?" a Valorian general asked skeptically. "I worked on similar systems during my captivity," Bora explained. "The power requirements are unique. When I saw these energy signatures in the data, I recognized the pattern. Then I cross-referenced with the construction schedules I memorized. The weapon will be operational in 6 days. 6 days, Velness repeated quietly. "That is not much time. Can we destroy it?" Admiral Takeshi asked. Bora manipulated the hologram, highlighting sections.
"Yes, but only if we strike at a specific point."
"Here, the main power coupling for the weapon. It is exposed during the final construction phase. One precise hit will cause a cascade failure. The entire platform will tear itself apart." "How precise?" Day asked. "Very," Bora admitted. "The target area is only 3 meters wide, and it is protected by shields and fighter patrols." "Impossible shot," one officer muttered. "Difficult, not impossible," Day said. He looked at Bora. "Can you guide the strike team? In real time?" "If I have access to the targeting computers, yes," Bora said. "I know how the platform's systems work. I can predict power fluctuations and shield gaps." Admiral Takeshi studied her for a long moment. "You would be on the strike ship? In combat?" "Yes," Bora said firmly. "She is not a soldier," the skeptical general said. "She is an engineer. This is too dangerous." "She is the only one who understands the target well enough," Day countered. "And she is braver than you think." Velness raised one of his 4 hands. "I say we trust her. Bora has been right about everything so far. Why doubt her now?" After more discussion, they agreed. The strike would happen in 3 days. Bora would go with the human attack squadron. Day would command the ground assault team. The next 3 days passed in a blur. Bora worked with the fighter pilots, explaining the target. She ran simulations again and again. The pilots were nervous, but they listened to her instructions carefully. Nari came to visit her the night before the mission. She brought food and sat down beside Bora. "You should eat something," Nari said gently. "I am too nervous," Bora admitted. "I would be too," Nari said. "Bora, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you ever wish you were like me? Thin and pretty and educated in useless things?" Nari asked. "Would life have been easier?" Bora thought about it. Maybe easier, but less meaningful. "I build things. I fix things. I create things. That matters. Your pretty dresses and art lessons, they did not save anyone from the Dominion." "No," Nari agreed. "They did not. I have been thinking about what the humans said, about respecting workers. I asked to transfer to the engineering training program." Bora looked at her in surprise. "Really?" "Really," Nari smiled. "I am starting at the bottom, learning basic repairs. It is hard and my hands hurt and I am terrible at it, but it feels honest, real. I am actually doing something useful." "That is wonderful," Bora said warmly. "You inspired me," Nari said. "You and that stubborn human who chose you." He was right. Worth is not about appearance. It is about what we contribute. After Nari left, Day came by. He sat quietly beside Bora for a while. "Nervous?" he asked. "Terrified," Bora admitted. "I have never been in combat before." "You will do fine," Day said. "You know that target better than anyone. Trust yourself, Day," Bora said quietly. "Thank you. For everything. For choosing me. For believing in me. For changing my whole life." "You changed your own life," Day corrected. "I just gave you a chance to show who you really are." The day of the attack arrived. Bora sat in the command seat of the lead strike fighter. The pilot, a human woman named Suna, checked the controls. "Ready back there?" Suna asked. "Ready," Bora said, though her heart pounded. The fleet jumped into the Kilo system. Immediately, alarms blared. Dominion fighters swarmed out to meet them. "Here we go," Suna shouted, diving into combat. Bora watched her displays tracking the weapon platform. Even during the chaos of the space battle, her mind focused on the engineering. She saw patterns in the power flows. She predicted shield fluctuations. Suna, turn left in 3 seconds, Bora said calmly. Shield gap opening. Suna followed the instruction. They slipped through a gap in the defenses that appeared exactly when Bora predicted. How did you know? Suna asked in amazement. I know how they build things, Bora said simply. They dodged fire from the platform's defense guns. Other ships in the squadron were not as lucky. Bora watched 2 fighters explode. She felt sick but forced herself to focus. Almost there, Bora said. Preparing targeting solution. She worked frantically on her computer. The power coupling was visible now, just barely. But the shields were still up. I need 43 seconds, Bora said. The shields will fluctuate when they redirect power for a weapons charge. I can calculate the exact moment. 43 seconds, Suna repeated. That is a long time in a fight. Enemy fighters closed in. Suna twisted and turned, dodging fire. Other coalition ships moved to protect them, taking hits meant for the strike craft. Bora counted down. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. A Dominion fighter got a lock on them. Warning alarm screamed, we have to move. Suna shouted, not yet. Bora insisted. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. Now fire now. Suna launched the missile. It streaked toward the platform just as the shields flickered for a fraction of a second. The missile slipped through and hit the power coupling exactly where Bora predicted. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the platform started to glow. Bright energy spread across its surface like cracks in glass. The entire structure shuddered. Get us out of here, Bora yelled. Suna accelerated hard. Behind them, the weapon platform exploded in a massive ball of fire and energy. The shockwave caught their fighter, spinning it wildly. When they finally stabilized, the platform was gone. Just debris and smoke remained. We did it, Suna whispered. We actually did it. Back on the command ship, Bora was greeted with cheers. Engineers and soldiers crowded around her. Even the skeptical Valorian general approached and bowed respectfully. I was wrong about you, he said simply. Forgive my prejudice. Day pushed through the crowd and hugged her. You were amazing. We won, Bora said, still in shock. You won, Day corrected. Your intelligence, your skills, your bravery. This is your victory. Commander Velnus called for attention. Today we learned something important. Victory comes from using all our people, not just the ones who look impressive. Bora proved that talent has nothing to do with appearance. The coalition is officially changing its policies. Workers will be given the same respect as nobles. Engineers will have voice in command decisions. We will honor the builders. The room erupted in applause. Many of the applauding Valorians were lower-deck workers who had never been recognized before. Later that night, Bora stood on an observation deck looking at the stars. Dee found her there. How do you feel? He asked. Different, Bora said. A week ago I thought I was worthless. Now I am being called a hero. It is strange. You were never worthless, Day said. The people around you were just blind. Not all of them, Bora smiled at him. One human saw clearly. I just saw an engineer, Dee said. The rest was easy. What happens now? Bora asked. The bonding is permanent, but we barely know each other. Now we figure it out, Day said. As partners. As colleagues. Maybe as friends. No pressure. No expectations. Just 2 engineers working together. I would like that, Bora said. Tay and Quan joined them on the observation deck, bringing drinks to celebrate. To Bora, Tay raised his glass. The engineer who saved us all. To humans, Quan added. Who taught us that worth is measured in what you build, not how you look. To second chances, Bora said quietly. And to people who see value where others see nothing. They drank together, watching the stars. Somewhere below them, Valorian society was beginning to change. Workers were speaking up. Nobles were learning practical skills. The rigid class system was starting to crack. It would take time. Change always did. But Bora had learned something important. One person seeing your worth was enough to start a revolution. She looked at Day and smiled. He smiled back. Thank you, she said again. Thank you, he replied, for being exactly who you are. And for the first time in her life, Bora was proud of exactly who she was. Commander Velnus stared at the holographic display in disbelief. The data from Bora's chip floated in the air, showing detailed schematics and code sequences. His forehands moved quickly, zooming in on different sections. This is incredible, he breathed. These are Dominion command codes. Current ones. And these ship designs, we have been trying to get this information for months. Bora stood nervously beside Day. So it is useful? Useful? Belness looked at her with something like awe. This is one of the most valuable intelligence finds of the entire war. How did you get all this? I worked on their flagship for 3 months, Bora explained. They made me repair power systems all over the ship. I had access to many areas. I just paid attention. Engineers see everything. Why did you not tell anyone when you were rescued? Belness asked. Bora looked down. Who would have listened? I am just a worker. The noble families would not believe me. They would think I was lying to get attention. Belness was quiet. Then he did something unexpected. He bowed to Bora. I apologize, he said formally. You are right. In my culture, we would not have listened to you. That is a failure of our society. A terrible failure. Bora did not know what to say. A commander was bowing to her. This had never happened before. We need to decrypt all of this data immediately, Belness said, straightening up. Bora, I need you to work with our intelligence team. You understand Dominion systems better than anyone. Me? Bora asked nervously. Work with intelligence officers? Yes, is that a problem? Belness asked. No, I have never worked with officers before. Only other engineers. You are working with them now, Belness said firmly. D, I want you there too. This might lead to combat operations. Over the next 3 days, Bora worked almost non-stop. The intelligence team was mixed. Valorians, humans, and other species. At first, the Valorian officers treated her coldly. They spoke to Day but ignored her. But as the work continued, that changed. Bora could read the Dominion schematics faster than anyone. She understood their engineering logic. She could predict where they would place important systems based on their design philosophy. One Valorian intelligence officer, a thin, elegant female named Nari, finally approached her on the 3rd day. I need to apologize, Nari said stiffly. Bora looked up from her tablet. For what? I was one of the 5, Nari said quietly. One of the females at the selection ceremony. I stood there in my expensive dress thinking I was so much better than you. Oh, Bora said. She remembered. Nari was the one with golden jewelry. I was angry when the human chose you, Nari continued. I thought he was mocking our culture. But watching you work these past days, I understand now. You have real value. Skills I do not have. Knowledge I cannot match. She paused. I have never worked a day in my life. I studied art and politics, but I never built anything. Never fixed anything. Never created anything useful. Your skills are different, Bora said carefully. Diplomacy is important too. Maybe, Nari said. But when the Dominion came, my diplomacy could not stop them. People like you kept the ships running, kept the power on, kept everyone alive. I just looked pretty and said nice words. You should not feel bad, Bora said. You were taught to value different things. Wrong things, Nari said firmly. Day helped me see that. Humans value builders. Maybe we should too. After Nari left, Day came over with food for Bora. You need to eat. You have been working for 8 hours straight. I'm almost done decrypting this section, Bora said, but her stomach growled loudly. Day put the food in front of her. Eat first. The data will still be there in 20 minutes. Bora smiled and started eating. Nari apologized to me today, I know. I talked to her yesterday, Day admitted. I explained human values. Why we respect engineers and builders. She listened. You are changing minds, Bora said. Maybe. Or maybe people are just seeing what was always true, Day said. That worth is not about appearance. It is about what you can do. Tay rushed into the room suddenly. We have a problem. The conservative faction is holding a protest outside the command deck. They are demanding Bora be removed from the intelligence team. Velnus arrived moments later, looking angry. I need to address this. Day, Bora, come with me. They walked to the command deck. Through the windows, they could see about 50 Valorian soldiers gathered below. They held signs written in Valorian script. Many of them chanted. What are they saying? Day asked. Velnus looked uncomfortable. They are saying Bora dishonors the bonding tradition, that she should not be allowed to work with officers, that her presence insults noble families. This is my fault, Bora whispered. I should leave. No, Day said firmly. He turned to Velnus. Can I speak to them? Velnus hesitated. It might make things worse. Or it might make things better, Day said. Let me try. Velnus nodded and activated the external speakers. The human Day wishes to address you. Day stepped to the window where everyone could see him. He spoke clearly into the microphone. I understand you are angry about my choice. You think I insulted your traditions, but I did not. I honored them by choosing honestly. You presented 5 females and told me to pick the one I valued most. I did exactly that. The crowd quieted slightly, listening. I chose Bora because she is an engineer, because she has skills I respect, because she represents the kind of person humans value most, someone who builds and creates and fixes things. In human culture, there is no higher honor than being called a skilled worker. She is fat, someone shouted from the crowd. She is ugly. She shames the bonding tradition. She is strong, Day corrected sharply. Her body is built from years of physical work. You call it fat. I call it powerful. You call her ugly. I call her real. She has worked harder in her life than most of you combined, and because of her we now have intelligence that might help us win this war. Some of the protesters looked uncertain now. I have a question for all of you. Day continued. When your ships break down, who fixes them? When your power systems fail, who restores them? When your cities need building, who builds them? It is people like Bora. People you call worthless. People you hide on lower decks. People you mock and ignore. We pay them for their work, someone argued. Payment is not respect, Day said. Humans learned a long time ago that a society is only as strong as how it treats its workers. If you shame the people who build your world becomes weak. Velnus stepped forward and spoke. The human is correct. Bora has provided intelligence worth more than any noble family's entire wealth. She did this because she is skilled, observant, and brave, things that have nothing to do with her appearance. The crowd was quieter now. Some people started leaving. Others stayed but stopped chanting. One Valorian officer in the crowd stepped forward. Commander, permission to speak? Granted, Velnus said. I am an engineer too, the officer said. Lower deck maintenance. I have worked here for 12 years. Nobody ever asked my opinion on anything until today, when I helped decrypt Bora's data. The human Tai asked me what I thought about a propulsion problem. He actually listened to my answer. He paused. It was the first time an officer treated me like I mattered. Several other Valorians in the crowd nodded. Maybe, the engineer continued, maybe we should think about what the humans are teaching us. The protest dissolved after that. People wandered away in small groups, talking quietly among themselves. Velnus turned off the speakers and looked at Day. You are a troublemaker, he said, but he was smiling. I am a builder, Day corrected. We cause trouble for broken systems. Bora walked up to the window and looked down at the dispersing crowd. She felt strange. People had protested about her, argued about her. But for the first time, the argument was not that she was worthless. The argument was about whether her worth should matter. That was new. That was progress. Come on, Day said gently. We have more data to decrypt. Let us show them what a working engineer can really do. Bora nodded. Together they walked back to the intelligence center. She still had more work to do, and now finally people were ready to see its value. The human engineering bay was different from any workspace Bora had ever seen. It was loud and busy. Engineers shouted to each other across the room. Tools were scattered everywhere. Music played from speakers in the corner. People laughed while they worked. Day walked beside Bora as they entered. Several human engineers looked up and waved. That is Tay. Day pointed to a man covered in grease. He specializes in propulsion systems. And that is Quan, our electrical expert. Quan walked over. He was shorter than Day with a friendly smile. So you are the engineer everyone is talking about? Bora felt her stomach tighten. They are making fun of me?
What? No.
Quan looked confused. They are impressed. Day told us you worked on Dominion ships. We want to know everything about their power systems. Oh, Bora relaxed slightly. You do? Of course. Tay joined them, wiping his hands on a dirty cloth. Dominion technology is advanced. If you worked on their systems, you know things we do not. This was strange. On Valorian ships, engineers from different areas did not talk to each other much. Everyone stayed in their assigned sections. Nobody asked for opinions from lower-ranking workers. I can show you some things, Bora said carefully. If you want. Excellent. Tay grabbed a tablet and handed it to her. Look at this power coupling design. We captured it from a Dominion fighter. It is more efficient than ours, but we cannot figure out why. Bora looked at the schematic on the tablet. Her eyes moved quickly over the diagram. Years of experience kicked in. She zoomed in on one section and pointed. Here, she said. See this secondary buffer? Dominion engineers use a double-layered cooling system. It lets them push more power through without overheating. But it only works if you use their specific alloy for the conduits. If you use standard materials, the whole thing will melt. Tay and Quan looked at each other with wide eyes. How did you know that? Quan asked. I installed hundreds of these, Bora said simply. It was my job. Can you write down the specifications? Tay asked excitedly. This could improve our fighters by 20%. Bora nodded and started making notes on the tablet. As she worked, more human engineers gathered around. They asked questions. They listened to her answers. Nobody laughed at her appearance. Nobody questioned her knowledge because she was working class. They just cared that she knew her job. After 2 hours of technical discussions, Day brought Bora some food. They sat in a corner of the engineering bay while she ate. Your people are strange, Bora said between bites. How so? Day asked. They actually listened to me. On Valorian ships, nobody asked my opinion. They just told me what to fix and left. That is a waste, Day said. The people who work on systems every day know things that commanders never learn. Smart leaders listen to their engineers. Bora smiled. She was starting to understand why humans were so successful in the coalition. They used all their people, not just the pretty or noble ones. Can I ask you something personal? Bora said quietly. Sure. What do humans think about bodies? About being heavy like me? Day thought for a moment. Humans come in all shapes and sizes. Some are thin, some are heavy, some are tall, some are short. We think health is important. We think strength is good, but mostly we think people should not be judged for how they look. Really? Bora found that hard to believe. Well, some humans are shallow, Day admitted. Every species has idiots. But in human culture, we have laws against discrimination based on appearance. And most people understand that bodies are just bodies. What matters is what you do with yours. What I do with mine, Bora asked. You use your body to build things. To fix complex machines? To work hard. That is respectable, Day said. Someone who just sits around looking pretty? That is less respectable to humans. We value work. Bora felt something strange. It was pride. She had never felt proud of herself before. Commander Velnus entered the engineering bay. Everyone stopped working. The commander looked around with his forearms crossed. I need to speak with Day and his bonded companion, Velnus said formally. They followed him to a private office. Velnus closed the door and his expression changed. He looked tired and frustrated. I need to warn you both, he said. The conservative faction of my people is angry about your choice, Day. They say you insulted our traditions by picking a worker. I did not insult anything, Day said. I made an honest choice. I know, Velnus sighed. But they do not see it that way. They are demanding that Bora be returned and a proper selection be made. No, Day said immediately. I agree with you, Velnus said quickly. I am not going to force this, but I wanted you to know there may be problems. Some of my officers are not happy. Bora felt fear creep up her spine. What kind of problems? Political problems mostly, Velnus said. They cannot actually do anything to you. The bonding is sacred law, but they can make things difficult. Let them try, Day said coldly. Bora stays with the human engineering team. If your conservative faction wants to complain, they can complain to me. Velnus actually smiled. You are very protective of someone you just met. She is my engineer, Day said. That makes her my responsibility. After Velnus left, Bora turned to Day. You do not have to fight for me. If this causes problems, I can go back. No, Day said firmly. You belong here, with people who appreciate your skills. But why do you care so much? Bora asked. You barely know me. Day was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke carefully. When I was young, I was told I was too short to be a soldier. Too small. Not strong enough. Everyone said I should give up and find an easier job. But I worked harder than everyone else. I proved them wrong. I know what it feels like when people underestimate you. And now you are a war hero, Bora said softly. Now I am a soldier who did his job, Day corrected. But yes, I proved them wrong. And I think you can prove your people wrong too. You just need a chance. Bora looked at this strange human who had changed her entire life in one day. He was not tall or especially handsome. His face was scarred from combat. His hands were rough from work. But he was more honest and kind than anyone she had ever met. I want to tell you something, Bora said suddenly. Something I have not told anyone. Okay, Day said. When I was captured by the Dominion, they made me work on their flagship power systems. They thought I was too stupid to understand what I was seeing. But I paid attention. I memorized codes. I copied system schematics in my head. I even managed to download some data onto a hidden memory chip. Day leaned forward. What kind of data? Military information, ship designs, communication frequencies, maybe more. I do not know everything that is on the chip. Bora pulled a small device from a hidden pocket in her clothes. It was barely bigger than her fingernail. I was going to throw it away. What good would it do? Who would believe a fat engineer from the lower decks? If I told the Valorian officers, they would just laugh at me. Day took the chip carefully. This could be important. Maybe, Bora said. Or maybe it is nothing. I did not look at it closely. I was too afraid. We should show this to Velnus, Dee said. Will he listen? Bora asked doubtfully. He will now, Day smiled. After today, I think Velnus is starting to understand that talented people come in all shapes. Bora smiled back. For the first time in her life, she felt like maybe her work mattered. Maybe she mattered. Thank you, Day, she said quietly. For what? For giving me a reason to hope. Day stood up and extended his hand to her. Come on, let us go show the commander what a working-class engineer can do. Bora took his hand and stood. Together they walked out of the office. She did not know what the information on the chip would reveal. But for the first time, she felt brave enough to find out. Maybe the human way was better after all. The private chamber was small and quiet. Bora sat on a bench with her hands in her lap. She stared at the floor. Her eyes were red from crying. She did not understand why this was happening to her. The door opened and Day walked in. He closed it behind him and stood awkwardly near the entrance. The room felt too small suddenly. Please sit, Bora said quietly. Her voice was flat and tired. I know you must explain the joke now. Day frowned. Joke? The other humans put you up to this, yes? Bora finally looked at him. Her eyes were filled with pain and anger. Pick the fat one. Everyone will laugh. Very funny. No, Day said firmly. He moved closer but kept his distance. That is not what this is. Then what? Bora stood up. Her voice got louder. You felt sorry for me? Poor ugly Bora, nobody wants her, so the human will take pity? That is worse than a joke. I chose you because you are an engineer, Day said simply. Bora stopped. She stared at him like he spoke a language she did not know. What? Your hands, Day said. He held up his own hands. They were covered in old scars and burn marks too. I have the same marks. Chemical burns from working with power cells. Oil stains that never completely wash out. I saw them on you during the ceremony. Bora looked down at her hands. She always tried to hide them. Everyone told her they were ugly. Working hands were shameful in Valorian society. I watched all of you during the speeches, Day continued. The other four looked at the crowd. They smiled and waved. But you kept looking at the damaged ship sections through the viewports. You were analyzing the broken power systems. Even during your own rescue ceremony, you were thinking about how to fix things. Bora did not know what to say. You are not a prisoner of status, Day said. You are an engineer who got captured. Am I right? Bora nodded slowly. I was part of a repair team. When the Dominion invaded, they needed people who understood the power systems. They forced us to work for them. I tried to sabotage their ships when I could. I thought so. Day smiled slightly. That is why I chose you. But I am not beautiful, Bora whispered. I am not thin like them. I am not educated in art or music. I am just a worker. In my world, that means I am nothing. Day shook his head. On Earth, we think differently. The people who build things are important. Engineers, construction workers, farmers, mechanics. We respect people who work with their hands and minds together. My father built bridges. My mother programmed manufacturing systems. Before I joined the military, I repaired spacecraft engines. Bora sat back down slowly. This was confusing. Everything she knew about value and worth was being turned upside down. The other females are thin because they never worked physically, Day explained. They have soft hands because they never held tools. That is fine. But that is not what I need. I do not need someone who looks pretty. I need a partner who understands real work. Partner? Bora asked. That is what bonded companion means to humans, Day said. not a prize, not a servant. An equal partner, someone who works beside you. Tears started falling down Bora's face again, but this time they were different. She was not crying from shame. She was crying because someone finally saw her as valuable. My whole life everyone told me I was worthless, she said. Too heavy, wrong body, working-class family, dirty job. I should have been born thin and beautiful. I should have studied art, then maybe someone would want me. Your people are idiots, Day said bluntly. Bora laughed. It was a short, surprised laugh. You cannot say that about an entire culture. I just did, Day smiled. Look, I respect many things about Valorian culture, but this thinking engineers are worthless? That is stupid. Who do they think keeps their ships flying? Who fixes their power systems? Who builds their cities? People like me, Bora said quietly. But we stay hidden. We work in the lower decks. Nobody wants to see us. Humans want to see you, Day said. When we first met the Galactic Coalition, do you know what they called us? The Builders. Because that is what humans do. We build things. We fix things. We work hard. That is our strength, Bora wiped her eyes. I do not know what to do now. The bonding ceremony is permanent. You are stuck with me. I am not stuck, Day said. I chose you on purpose. But I want to make something clear. This bonding thing is strange to humans. On Earth, people choose their partners freely. They date, they fall in love. They decide together. This system of giving people as rewards feels wrong to me. Then why did you accept? Bora asked. Because if I refused, Commander Velnus would have been insulted, Day explained. Refusing the honor would have been worse than accepting. So I played by their rules, but I chose someone I actually respect. Someone who could be a real partner if she wants. Not a prize. Not a servant. A colleague. Bora thought about this carefully. So what happens now? Now we figure it out together, Day said. If you want, you can work with the human engineering teams. We have projects you might find interesting, or if you want to return to your people, I will find a way to break this bonding respectfully. You would do that? Bora asked. Even after choosing me publicly? Yes, Day said. Because forcing someone to stay with me is wrong. I do not care what the traditions say. Bora stood up and walked to the viewport. She looked out at the ships being repaired after the battle. She saw crews working on the hulls, fixing damaged systems, restoring power lines. I want to see the human engineering bay, she said finally. Really? Day asked. Yes. Bora turned to face him. I want to see how humans work. I want to understand your technology and... She hesitated. I want to be somewhere people do not think I am worthless. You are not worthless, Day said firmly. You are an engineer. That makes you valuable, Bora smiled. It was small and uncertain, but it was real. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you really choose me? Be honest. Was it only because I am an engineer? Day thought for a moment. Partly yes, but also because you looked so sad standing there. Everyone else stood proud. But you looked broken, like you expected to be rejected. That made me angry. Nobody should feel that worthless. And I thought maybe if a human chose you, it would show your people they are wrong about you. That is very kind, Bora said softly. It is not kind, Day corrected. It is fair. Fair and kind are different things. Someone knocked on the door. A voice called through. Human Day, your team requests your presence. There is a tactical briefing in 10 minutes. I will be there, Day called back. He looked at Bora. I have to go. But think about what you want. We can talk more later. Bora nodded. As Day reached the door, she spoke again. Day? He turned back. Thank you, she said.
For seeing me. Thank you for being worth seeing, he replied, and left. Bora sat back down.
Her mind was spinning. Everything was different now. Maybe, she thought, not all aliens thought like Valorians. Maybe somewhere in this big galaxy she could be valued for what she could do instead of how she looked. Maybe the human was right. Maybe she was not worthless after all. She looked down at her scarred hands and smiled. The lights inside the command ship were bright and colorful. Day stood on the platform with his helmet under his arm. His black combat suit still had dust and burn marks from the battle. Around him, thousands of alien soldiers filled the massive hall. They cheered and celebrated the victory. Commander Velnus walked to the center of the platform. He was tall with blue skin and 4 arms. His voice boomed through the speakers. Today we honor the brave warriors who freed Valoris Prime from the Dominion. The crowd roared. Day felt uncomfortable with all the attention. He was just doing his job. Back on Earth, soldiers did not get ceremonies like this. They did their mission and went home. This human soldier destroyed the shield generator alone, Velnus continued. He crawled through enemy tunnels for 2 days. He fought past 50 Dominion guards. Because of him, our forces could land and free the prisoners. More cheering. Day saw his teammates Tai and Quan in the crowd. They both smiled and gave him thumbs up. He nodded back at them. According to ancient Valorian tradition, Velnus said, a great hero may choose a bonded companion from those he saved. This is our highest honor. Dee had heard about this tradition. The other human soldiers warned him it might happen. He was not sure what to think about it. On Earth, people chose their own partners. They did not get assigned like prizes. But he also knew he had to respect alien cultures. That was part of being in the Galactic Coalition. 5 females walked onto the platform. They were all Valorian, with pale blue skin and large eyes. 4 of them wore beautiful clothes covered in jewels. Their bodies were thin and graceful. They moved like dancers. The crowd whispered in appreciation. The first one had long silver hair that reached her feet. She wore a dress made of some material that changed colors. She smiled confidently and waved to the crowd. The second female wore golden jewelry on her arms and neck. Her face was painted with intricate designs. She looked like royalty. The third and fourth were also decorated beautifully. They stood proud and elegant, knowing everyone was watching them. Then Day noticed the 5th female. She stood at the back, almost hidden behind the others. She wore simple gray clothes with no decorations. Her body was thicker and heavier than the others. She kept her eyes down and her shoulders hunched forward. She looked like she wanted to disappear. These 5 females were rescued from the Dominion labor camps, Velnus announced. Each one comes from a respected family. Choose wisely, human warrior. Your choice will be bonded to you by our sacred law. The crowd waited in silence. Everyone expected Day to pick one of the 4 beautiful females. That was obvious. They were pretty, well-dressed, and confident. Why would anyone pick differently? Day walked slowly along the line. He stopped in front of the first female with silver hair. What is your name? He asked. I am Hana, she said with a musical voice. I studied art and music at the Royal Academy. My family owns 3 planets. Day nodded and moved to the second female. I am Yuna, she said before he could ask. I am trained in diplomacy in 6 languages. I have negotiated trade deals worth billions. The third female introduced herself as Jiwan. She was a scientist. The fourth was Yunji, a military strategist from a general's family. Finally, Dai stood in front of the 5th female. She did not look up. And you? He asked gently. She flinched slightly. Bora, she whispered. I worked in the engineering sector. Worked? Day asked. What did you do? I fixed ships. Power systems, mostly. Her voice was barely audible. Day looked at her hands. They had small scars and old burn marks. He saw oil stains under her short nails. Her arms were strong and muscular, not from exercise but from real physical work. He noticed something else. While the other 4 females watched the crowd, Bora's eyes kept moving to the damaged section of the ship visible through the viewports. She was looking at the exposed power conduits and broken panels. Even now, even during this ceremony, she was thinking like an engineer. Day stepped back and faced Commander Velnus. I have made my choice, he said. The hall went completely silent. Every eye was on him. The 4 decorated females stood a little straighter, each hoping to be chosen. I choose Bora. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the hall erupted in confused whispers. Aliens turned to each other, asking if they heard correctly. Some laughed. Others looked shocked. The 4 rejected females had very different reactions. Hana looked insulted. Yuna seemed relieved. Jiwan raised her eyebrows in surprise. Yunji actually smiled slightly as if she found it interesting, but Bora looked horrified. Her face went pale. She stared at Day like he had just hit her. Tears formed in her eyes. Commander Velnus stepped forward. Human Day, are you certain? Perhaps you do not understand our customs fully. You may take time to reconsider. I am certain, Day said firmly. Tay and Quan pushed through the crowd. Brother, are you sure? Tay whispered. No judgment, but everyone is staring. I know what I am doing, Day replied quietly. Velnus looked uncomfortable but nodded. Then, by our sacred tradition, Bora is bonded to the human Day. Let it be recorded. Guards escorted the 5 females off the platform. As they walked away, Day heard some of them whispering. He caught words like shameful and lucky escape and poor thing. Bora walked like she was going to her execution. Her whole body shook. The ceremony continued with more speeches and celebrations, but Day barely heard them. He kept thinking about what he had seen. Everyone else saw a fat, unimportant worker, but Day saw something completely different. He saw scarred hands that built things. He saw eyes that understood machines. He saw someone who knew real work, not just decorations and titles. On Earth, people respected that. Engineers and builders were honored. People who worked with their hands and minds together were valuable. Day wondered if he had just made things harder for Bora. Maybe in this culture, being chosen by him was more embarrassing than being passed over. He hoped he would get a chance to explain. As the ceremony finally ended, Velnus approached him again. "You will meet with your bonded companion in 1 hour," he said. "Private chambers have been prepared. I hope you know what you are doing, human." "So do I," Day admitted. He walked off the platform, wondering how to explain to Bora that he did not choose her as a joke or an insult. He chose her because he recognized a fellow engineer. Someone real, someone who built things instead of just looking pretty. He just hoped she would listen long enough to hear him out.